Hi, everybody. My name is Teo, and I'm here to share my experience using Target Test Prep, and how I did on the GMAT following that experience. Going to start a little bit with my background. I just turned 26 years old. It's 2025 right now, and I graduated from undergrad in 2022. I studied environmental science and data science. And right now I work as a data scientist in the consumer packaged goods industry. And I've been in my job for 2.5 years. My first GMAT mock was in early June 2025, and I got a 635. I don't recall exactly what my scores were, but I got a very good score on verbal, a very strong score on data as well, and was really quite poor at the quant section. So that's what made me decide that I ought to use a test prep program. I did some research online, and I found that Target Test Prep was pretty widely considered to be the best prep program, especially for quant, and so I went with that one. I was really pleased, and in the end I ended up getting a 695 after about a month and a half of study, with basically all the improvement in the quant section. So it definitely worked out very well for me. I hadn't done anything else before TTP. All I'd done was this one practice GMAT that was free online. I think I already covered how I came across the Target Test Prep course. I just Googled around online. In terms of how long I used Target Test Prep, I was using it for about a month and a half. So I started early June taking the practice exam, then mid to late June I did the TTP free trial for a few days, and then started subscribing to the flexible study self-study monthly plan. When it comes to how I actually use TTP, I definitely studied pretty substantially, even though it was only over the course of a little bit over a month, say like 6 weeks. I was studying about 15 to 20 hours a week, almost exclusively on quant. I thought the material was really strong. There are about 20 chapters of quant material. They break down each type of question into their own chapter, which lets you really drill it and get totally used to the format of the question. I found this really useful because, as a lot of people know, the GMAT doesn't give you a ton of time on math questions, and sometimes you spend the first 20 or 30 questions just wondering how to set things up on your whiteboard. Target Test Prep totally gets rid of that, and it lets you learn how to set up questions in such a way that you can get started doing the calculations instantly. So I really like that about it. Not only that, the chapters really built on one another. So, the first couple chapters are foundational math skills. And I found that a lot of that stuff was reinforced in later chapters, which meant that I was drilling the most important foundational stuff all the time, even when I moved on to the more advanced chapters. Another thing that I really liked about Target Test Prep was how substantial the question explanations and lessons were. So as you go through these chapter lessons, there are a lot of practice questions distributed throughout, and they all have both a detailed written and video explanation accompanying them. Those really helped me build understanding at moments when I didn't really know what was going on. And on top of that, they have a cool AI tutor feature. When the video and the written explanations didn't suffice, I could have, there was a little AI chatbot there that I could ask questions to. And in a few instances, it really helped me understand what was missing and why I wasn't answering questions properly. So that was really nice. One other feature about Target Test Prep that I really like was the error log and error tracker. You can bookmark questions that you struggled on or that you got wrong, and then you can go back and look at where you've been messing up. This was really useful, especially on some of the mixed practice quizzes where you're studying different types of questions next to one another, because it's hard to keep track of what topics you're messing up at. So that allowed me to go back and have some really focused study on the parts where my understanding was lagging. I guess the final piece of the format that I really liked that Target Test Prep uses is the index card feature. There were a lot of times when I was on the train or when I was cooking dinner that I didn't have the time or space to sit down and do a real practice question with, getting my whiteboard out and everything. But the index cards let me study nonetheless. So it was practicing formulas, practicing remembering, properties of numbers and such, practicing remembering how to factor, and that stuff, just keeping my skills sharp in moments when I wasn't ready to actually sit down and study, really kept everything top of mind so that I could go into the exam really comfortable. Those are the main things that I think made the big difference for me, and reasons why I really like target test prep. In terms of the sort of like journey of my scores, so I took the practice test in early June. I started target test prep later in June, and then took a practice test or two without seeing a ton of improvement. I took my first GMAT and had my first official GMAT and had a positive breakthrough in terms of quant. My first practice exam was 20th percentile quant, and I jumped up to 70th on my first exam. But my data insight score was lower than it had been on practice exams on this first official test. I think there were a few reasons for that. I took the exam way too early in the morning. I put the data insight section last, so I was sort of tired when I was taking it. In any case, even though my quant score had improved to 70th percentile, I wanted to do better on quant, and data insights still wasn't as good as practice exams. So I took a couple weeks. I started focusing more on data insights during my studying with target test prep, and kept really grinding on quant in particular. And on my last official focus GMAT, I took both online, and I got 80th percentile for quant. I got 97th for data insights and 98th for verbal. So I was really happy with that. That was notwithstanding a really silly mistake on math that's keeping me up at night, and also having switched a verbal question from wrong to right, or from right to wrong rather, which I really wish they didn't tell you about, because that's pretty annoying. But notwithstanding those mistakes, I got a score that I'm pretty comfortable with, and it put me in a place where I felt like I could focus on the rest of the components of my applications, and not have to think about the exam anymore. In terms of advice for the GMAT, I think starting early is really the main thing I did wrong. I only had about a month and a half to study and take the exam. Luckily, I was able to get a score I was comfortable with, but I'm totally sure that if I had more time to study, my score would have kept going up. I wasn't even able to finish all the target test prep material. So I think if I was able to finish it and really do all the quizzes, my score would have kept improving, like I was saying. But given the time constraints of application season, I was comfortable with where I ended up. That's pretty much the whole story. Just to summarize, started with a 635, really low quant and solid data insights and verbal. Target test prep really helped me get my quant score way, way up. It was super worth the money and worth the time, even though it was non-substantially time intensive. And yeah, I can't recommend it enough. And I wish everybody luck for their GMATs. I know it was super stressful for me. So good luck to everybody. And I certainly recommend target test prep without reservation.